What if your memories could lie to you? What if the person waking up in your body wasn't you? Lost Highway isn't just a movie. It's a mental collapse disguised as cinema. A Mobius strip of paranoia, identity, death, and guilt that refuses to stay buried. Directed by David Lynch, this 1997 cult film opens with a man receiving VHS tapes of himself sleeping inside his own house. From there, time fractures. A man transforms into another. A woman disappears and returns as someone else. And a pale, dead-eyed figure calls from inside the very room you're standing in. At its surface, the film looks like a thriller. But beneath that, a war is raging between memory and denial, between perception and truth. Some viewers say it's a murder mystery. Others say it's a dream. But what if it's a confession playing on an endless loop? Critics dismissed it as nonsense. Now, it's canon, a cornerstone of postmodern cinema. You don't watch Lost Highway, you get absorbed into it. So buckle in. Here are 20 weird facts you didn't know about Lost Highway. Hidden codes, suppressed scenes, real-life nightmares, and the secrets Lynch will never explain. Fact number 1. That house was a trap. David Lynch didn't just find the house used in Lost Highway, he summoned it. He chose a cold, featureless structure that felt pre-haunted. Its yellow-tinged walls, claustrophobic hallways, and sterile lighting weren't just for atmosphere, they were psychological architecture. This wasn't Fred and Renee's home. It was a sealed box of guilt, where time loops and identity fractures. Some theorists believe each room reflects a part of Fred's fractured mind. The bedroom is repression, the hallway is denial, and the videotapes, they're manifestations of suppressed truth leaking in like static. But here's the disturbing part. What would you do if someone sent you a tape of yourself sleeping? Is it more terrifying to be watched or to be the one who filmed it without remembering? Fact number 2. The mystery man might be real. He's one of cinema's most haunting figures, pale, eyebrowless, emotionless. But Lynch didn't invent the mystery man. He saw him. Lynch once recounted a dream where this exact man appeared, standing in darkness, smiling without blinking. That image haunted him for years, until it became flesh in Lost Highway. After the film's release, online forums exploded with eerie claims. Multiple people described seeing a similar man at parties, on trains, in mirrors, only for him to vanish. He became a kind of urban legend, the man with no eyebrows. But here's the question. Did Lynch create the mystery man, or just reveal something that was already lurking behind our reality? Fact number 3. Lighting was used as a psychological weapon. In most films, lighting shows you what to see. In Lost Highway, lighting shows you what to feel and fear. Scenes with Renee glow dim and decayed, tinted in burnt orange, as if the truth is rotting just beneath the surface. When the mystery man appears, blinding white light slices in like an interrogation lamp or a flash of panic. Pete's scenes are bathed in pale blue, like he's living inside a hospital corridor. Lynch once said, "I don't light a film to illuminate the actors. I light it to paint a mind." So ask yourself, what if every light bulb in Lost Highway is a confession? What if the brightness isn't showing the truth, but trying to burn it away? Fact number 4. The film was inspired by the O.J. Simpson trial. David Lynch doesn't chase current events, but in this case, a real-world tragedy shaped an entire narrative. While the world was transfixed by the O.J. Simpson trial, Lynch was deeply disturbed by one core question. What if someone committed a terrible act and then mentally split to avoid living with it? That unsettling idea became the very DNA of Lost Highway. Fred Madison, the saxophonist, is consumed by jealousy. He suspects his wife is cheating but can't prove it. Then, blackout. She's dead. Fred's in prison. Until he isn't, he wakes up as someone else. A different man, a different life. And the horror begins again. What if Fred isn't escaping from guilt? What if this entire story is the moment before the confession, played out over and over until he breaks? Fact number 5. Lost Highway exists in the same universe as Mulholland Drive. It's not official, but Lynch left a trail, a whisper, a rift in the space-time fabric. Fans noticed odd overlaps between Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive. Both feature identity fractures, both include cryptic messages on videotapes, and both share a similar character, the man who delivers a mysterious box. But the most shocking clue? A license plate briefly visible in both films shows the same number. Not a reused prop, a planted anomaly. Some believe Lynch is building an interconnected dream world, one where identity is fluid, time is circular, and every street leads to another nightmare. So here's a theory. Maybe there's only one story across all his films, and we're just watching different characters wake up into it. Fact number 6. The soundtrack is a map to the story. Trent Reznor curated the Lost Highway soundtrack, and it's not just music, it's a cipher. Every track was placed deliberately to reflect the psychological state of the characters. David Bowie's I'm Deranged opens and closes the film a loop. Rammstein's pounding industrial tracks mirror Fred's rage and fragmentation. Lou Reed's eerie minimalism marks the scenes of denial and numbness. Even silence was weaponized. In key moments, the absence of sound becomes unbearable, forcing the audience to feel what the characters can't express. Reznor once said, "We weren't making a soundtrack, we were making a diagnosis. So next time you rewatch the film, listen carefully." The soundtrack doesn't accompany the movie. It might be the only honest voice in the entire story. Fact number 7. The Mystery Man was born from Lynch's nightmares. He's not human. He doesn't blink. He speaks in riddles and is somehow already at your house. The Mystery Man is one of the most unnerving characters David Lynch has ever created, and that says a lot. But where did he come from? Lynch revealed in interviews that the character was inspired by a recurring nightmare, a face in the shadows, watching, without eyes. A figure that knows your secrets before you do. Actor Robert Blake, cast in the role, leaned into the horror. He personally designed the character's ghostly makeup. He insisted on a pale white face, slicked back black hair, and pitch black clothing. He even shaved his eyebrows to appear more inhuman. And it worked. The Mystery Man doesn't scream or chase. He appears, always smiling, always still. He's not a killer. He's a mirror showing Fred the part of himself that cannot be hidden. But here's a question. Is the Mystery Man real within the story? Or is he the final form of guilt made flesh? Fact 8. The film's structure is a Mobius strip. Forged linear time. Lynch wasn't telling a story. He was folding a psychological paradox into a cinematic loop. The film starts with a message, Dick Laurent is dead. By the end, we hear the same line again, but delivered from a different place, by a different man. This isn't a coincidence. Lynch designed Lost Highway to loop endlessly, much like a Mobius strip, a surface with only one side and one edge. Fred Madison isn't escaping prison. He's trapped inside a mind that's replaying denial, murder, reinvention, again and again. The film's midpoint marks a break in reality. The prison cell, the lightning, the identity switch. After that, everything repeats, but slightly altered, as if Fred is testing new versions of himself, trying to find one he can live with. So here's a theory. There is no beginning or ending, only a loop that feeds on guilt. Fact number 9. Lynch refuses to explain a single frame. When asked to explain Lost Highway, Lynch always gives the same answer. The film is the explanation. Critics, fans, and scholars have begged for meaning. Lynch doesn't give it. Why? Because Lost Highway is not about understanding, it's about feeling. He believes that over-explaining art kills its soul. Instead, he trusts the subconscious to fill in the gaps, to project meaning onto the chaos. Every character, every shadow, every sound, it's designed to trigger something personal inside you. Maybe fear, maybe confusion, maybe recognition. And that's what makes the film so haunting. It's not that we don't understand it. It's that part of us does, and we're afraid to admit what it means. So, what do you think Lost Highway is about? Drop your theory in the comments. Let's get lost together. Fact number 10. The sound design was engineered to disorient you. While most films use sound to enhance realism, Lost Highway uses it to make you question reality. David Lynch, known for obsessively crafting soundscapes, worked with sound designer Alan Splett to create a sound world that feels alive, but wrong. Hallways buzz with a low, almost inaudible hum. Rooms are too quiet, until a mechanical roar shatters the silence. Everyday sounds, footsteps, door creaks, whispers are distorted, stretched, or reversed. This wasn't accidental. Lynch once said that sound is 50% of a film, but it's often the most invisible 50%. In Lost Highway, it's more than half. It's the unseen antagonist. Even the music plays tricks. Angelo Badalamenti's score is moody and minimal, but it's interrupted by blasts of industrial rock from 9 Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson. These sudden shifts yank the viewer between worlds, just like Fred himself. If you rewatch the film with headphones, you'll notice it's not just what you hear, but what you feel, and sometimes what you can't hear at all that disturbs you most. Fact number 11. The police interrogation scene was improvised. Remember the scene where detectives question Fred Madison about the mysterious videotapes? That entire sequence feels off. The timing is awkward. The pauses are long. Fred answers like a man half asleep or hiding something. That's because much of the dialogue was improvised. David Lynch encouraged Bill Pullman to play it like you're both guilty and confused, but don't admit anything. The detectives, meanwhile, were told to push, but not too hard. The result? A conversation that never lands, never resolves, and yet drips with tension. Even Fred's famous line, I like to remember things my own way, not necessarily the way they happened. Wasn't in the original script. Lynch kept it in because it perfectly encapsulated the theme of identity collapse and self-deception. What seems like a small scene is actually a Rosetta Stone for the entire film. Fact number 12. The character of Alice, Pete's girlfriend, mirrors duality. One actress, two personas. Patricia Arquette plays both Renee Madison and Alice Wakefield, but are they really two people? Alice is blonde, seductive, and seemingly free. Renee is brunette, cold, and distant. But watch closely. They wear similar jewelry. They move in similar ways. And Fred, Pete's emotional reactions to them mirror each other. Lynch uses them to explore the Madonna whore complex, a psychological split where men divide women into pure or impure categories. But here's the twist. Neither version is real. They are projections built by Fred, Pete, to avoid responsibility. When Alice walks into the desert and whispers, "You'll never have me," it's not just a rejection, it's a shattering. Fred's illusion collapses. He can't rewrite reality anymore. But is Alice the lie? Or was Renee never real to begin with? You decide. Fact star. David Lynch used reverse dialogue. Again, fans of Lynch will remember Twin Peaks for its famously bizarre red room scenes where characters spoke backward, then the audio was reversed to sound eerily off. He used a similar trick in Lost Highway, but in less obvious ways. In some dreamlike moments, characters' lips don't quite match the words. Sounds echo before actions occur. Conversations seem slightly out of sync. This was done through a technique called reverse playback direction. Actors would learn their lines backwards, phonetically, perform them, and then Lynch would reverse the footage. The result is that nothing feels natural. Even when the dialogue makes sense, your brain registers something wrong, like reality is being bent in real time. It's a subtle but powerful tool to keep the audience unsettled, trapped in a narrative loop they can't quite decode. Fact number 14. The house number is a code. Fred and Renee live at house number 7035. At first glance, just a number. But Lynch doesn't do just a number. Numerologists and Lynch fans have debated this endlessly. Here are a few theories. 7 plus 0 plus 3 plus 5 equals 15, and 1 plus 5 equals 6. The number often tied to imperfection or man's inner conflict in mystic systems. Some believe 7,035 references, Highway 7035 the US, which doesn't exist, mirroring the idea of a non-existent path. In Hebrew gematria, variations of those numbers link to words like shadow, mirror, or duality. Too deep? Maybe. But in a Lynch film, everything is intentional, even if the meaning is forever withheld. And perhaps that's the point, not to solve the mystery, but to experience it. Fact number 15. The ending scene was meant to be a loop. That final scene, Fred speeding down the highway, lights flashing, sirens wailing, his face twisting. It feels like an escape, but it's not. Lynch has hinted in interviews that the ending of Lost Highway is not a conclusion, but a loop, the beginning again. Some theorists suggest Fred is caught in purgatory, endlessly reliving his guilt. Each loop alters slightly, but he always ends up back where he began, watching a videotape that reveals a crime he can't accept. This ties directly to Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence, the idea that we're doomed to repeat our actions infinitely. What you're watching is not a redemption arc, but a psychological prison. And if you rewatch the first scene right after the last, it fits disturbingly well, which leads to a chilling question Lynch never answers. Did Fred ever exist, or was this the nightmare of a man already dead? Fact number 16. Marilyn Manson's cameo was strategically disturbing. You may have blinked and missed it, but Marilyn Manson and his bassist Twiggy Ramirez make a fleeting yet eerie appearance during the film's most chaotic, nightmarish sequence. They appear in a violent party montage that blends surreal visuals with sonic aggression. But this wasn't just a rock star stunt. David Lynch reportedly chose Manson for a very specific reason. He embodied the corruption of identity, a human mask constructed out of cultural fear and performance art. In fact, during this period, Manson's own public persona was blurring dangerously with real-life controversy. Their presence acts as a living metaphor for the film's themes: fractured personalities, moral disintegration, and the allure of destruction. Manson later described the shoot as like entering someone else's fever dream. No surprise there. That was exactly the point. Fact number 17. The sound design uses infrasound to unsettle you. Most viewers walk away from Lost Highway feeling disturbed, but they can't quite say why. One hidden reason? Infrasound. Lynch and sound designer Alan Splett were notorious for their use of ultra-low frequencies, tones below 20 Hz, that the human ear can't hear, but the body can feel. Studies show infrasound can trigger anxiety, unease, paranoia, even nausea. These frequencies were reportedly layered into key scenes: the hallway where Fred sees shadows move, the interrogation room, and the moment the mystery man calls from inside the house. The result? You feel physiologically off balance, even though you don't know why. It's not just psychological horror, it's biological horror. Fact 18. The film's structure mirrors a Mobius strip. Most narratives have a beginning, middle, and end. Not Lost Highway. The film loops, morphs, repeats itself in reverse. And that's not an accident. Lynch has compared the film's structure to a Mobius strip, a surface with only one side and one boundary, formed by taking a strip of paper, twisting it once, and joining the ends. If you trace the surface, you'll return to where you began but inverted. This mirrors how the movie operates. Fred becomes Pete. Pete becomes Fred. The crime is both the cause and the consequence. It's a narrative that feeds on itself, suggesting that identity, guilt, and memory are non-linear constructs. One critic called it a story where the map folds in on itself and becomes the terrain. And once you're inside, there's no escape, only repetition in disguise. Fact number 19. Lynch used circular editing to hide clues. David Lynch didn't just write a looping story. He also edited the film in loops, a method known among editors as circular or recursive cutting. Some transitions were purposefully crafted to connect scenes that mirrored each other, not chronologically, but thematically. A scream in one timeline bleeds into a mechanical hum in another. A car door slamming becomes a prison gate slamming in a different reality. These editing choices blur causality. You don't know if you're watching a cause or an effect. Even the jump cuts aren't mistakes. They're intentional gaps where Lynch removes logic to insert feeling. Fans who've rewatched the film dozens of times report seeing new patterns emerge, almost like a cinematic Rorschach test. Lynch once said, "I want you to dream the movie, not decode it." He didn't cut the film like a story. He cut it like a nightmare. Fact number 20. The film predicted Lynch's future obsession with identity loops. What began in Lost Highway evolved into something much bigger. This film marked the turning point in Lynch's career, where his interest in narrative fragmentation, doppelgangers, and identity loops became dominant. Think about it: Mulholland Drive, 2001, Inland Empire, 2006. Even Twin Peaks: The Return, 2017. All feature characters who are replaced by other versions of themselves, or worse, watch themselves from outside their own body. It started with Fred Madison's transformation into Pete Dayton. Critics now refer to this era of Lynch as the Loop Trilogy, and Lost Highway is its haunting, inescapable prologue. Bonus fact: the film's title comes from a philosophical essay. The name Lost Highway wasn't just a cool phrase. It was inspired by a 1,942nd existentialist essay that Lynch once read, titled The Highway of the Self. The essay posed a question: what if your life is a road, and you take the wrong exit forever? That's exactly what happens to Fred. The highway becomes a symbol of psychological detachment, a space between selves, between guilt and denial, between death and reinvention. It's not about where you're going. It's about the self you left behind, and whether it will ever catch up to you. If you've made it this far, congratulations, you just survived a ride through one of cinema's darkest corridors. But we want to know, do you think Fred and Pete were the same person, or two realities bleeding together? Comment your theory below. No answer is too weird in Lynch's world. Subscribe for more deep dives into cinema's strangest secrets, and share this with a friend who thinks they understood Lost Highway, because chances are they didn't.